Hey guys, this is Ryan with the Sportsman Shop. I'm here today with my buddy Sean, and today we're going to take a look at a couple different handguns and their operating systems. I'll have you know that all these handguns have been safety checked, and those that can have their actions locked open. And some of you may already know, this is a Glock 19. This is a striker-fired semi-automatic handgun. The same is true for the Ruger SR9C. Same is true for the Smith & Wesson Shield, which was featured in another one of our videos. The same is true for the ever-popular Springfield XDS and for the Kimber Solo as well. The single-action striker-fired guns, they utilize a striker, which is also a firing pin. Basically how this works is once the gun is cocked and locked back, the springs inside will hold back the striker until the trigger would be pulled. Again, this gun has been safety checked, and once the trigger is pulled, that allows the striker to fly forward and hit the primer on the case, causing it to ignite. These triggers are very short. It's definitely a benefit. Some people like it. The benefit of a striker-fired gun is, quite simply, there's no hammer to snag on. This is definitely something that is a problem, or it could be a problem if you choose to carry your firearm concealed. Any type of loose clothing or an improper holster can cause the firearm to snag. Since these striker-fired handguns do not have a hammer, that tends to eliminate that issue. Another benefit of the striker-fired handguns is a pretty light trigger pull. A lot of people really like that. It helps you be a good shot, and under any kind of stressful scenario, that can definitely be a good thing to have.
Okay, now we're looking at single-action automatics. The single-action automatic is one of the oldest designs out there. It is required that you have to rack the slide back and run it forward. That puts the hammer in a fully cocked position and gives you a very nice, very light, very crisp trigger pull that most people really enjoy shooting. When you're carrying a single-action single-action automatic, they call it cocked and locked. That means that the safety is engaged and the hammer is back. So when the firearm is deployed, firearm comes up, the safety comes off, and the trigger is pulled. The single action is probably best known in the 1911 design, and they come in all sorts of different sizes and shapes. Almost every company out in the firearms industry now, as far as pistol manufacturers go, manufactures some sort of a single action, generally in 1911.
Alright, and now we're going to take a look at a double action revolver. This happens to be a Ruger Super Alaskan in .44 Magnum. One of the benefits of having a double action revolver is versatility. The double action, single action revolvers can be shot in a manner which the trigger is pulled. As you can see, the hammer is returning to the fully cocked position, as well as the cylinder rotating to get a fresh round. This is good if you need a fast shot. However, if you are learning to shoot the gun, or if you're target shooting with a double action, single action revolver, you also have the ability to manually cock the hammer, which vastly decreases the trigger pull as well as the length, giving you a cleaner, more precise break, which aids in better shooting.
Now let's take a look at double action only semi-automatics. The double action only allows you to have a consistent trigger pull each and every time. The firearm actually cocks a hammer back internally or externally until it is broken, or until the sear breaks. So each and every time you're going to have a long kind of sweeping trigger pull similar to that of a revolver. It is a little bit harder to learn that system initially, however it is a much safer system because there's no accidental discharges.
And if I may chime in for a second, the double action semi-automatic system is used by a lot of police over in Europe.
Most definitely.
The Germans are issued a SIG, DAK, which is a double action only. So there are definite benefits to shooting a double action only semi. It's just something that is a bit more involved to learn to shoot well. And next we're going to take a look at the single action only revolvers. Anybody who's a fan of Western movies, you understand how this works. For those that don't, the only way that these can be fired is by manually cocking the hammer. This has been state-of-the-art since 1866 or the 1860s. We have used single-action type pistols all through the Civil War and of course through the Wild West, and even in the present day they do have a purpose. So again, they do have a single-action pull here, in which you have to manually cock the hammer, which rotates the cylinder, and at that point you do have a very clean, precise break. One thing that the single action onlys require you to do is they require you to load from a loading gate, and they also require to use an ejector rod. This is on most single action only revolvers. Again, that's just something from the time period that they were created in, and they also are a very good revolver and they have very good purposes here in the modern day.
Alright, next we're looking at the double action, single action semi-automatics. These were really, really popular in the 60s, 70s, 80s. It started weaning off around the 90s as the Glock came into its own. The way these firearms work is on and of course it is most definitely empty. The way these firearms work is as you pull the trigger, the hammer is cocked back just like a double action revolver until it breaks. Once that first round goes off, the slide comes back and moves forward again and leaves you with a nice, light, crisp single action pull for every other round. This firearm, the FNX, actually features a decocking lever right here, and I'll pull it from the other side, and that safely allows you to drop the hammer and takes you back to that double action trigger pull, which is much longer and heavier. These come in all sorts of different shapes and sizes. Some of the most famous ones, the Beretta 92, Sig Sauers, the Gen 3 Smith & Wessons, the Gen 2 Smith & Wessons, the Gen 1 Smith & Wessons. There are a lot of single action, double actions out there today, including the Ruger P95, which is very popular still.
So this is Ryan with the Sportsman Shop, and I just want to thank my buddy Sean for his help today, and hopefully that gave you a little bit of insight on how modern and older firearms operate. And just remember to be careful shooting. It's a fun sport, but if you're not careful, you can get into a little bit of trouble. So.